There's a kind of quiet that arrives after retirement, and nobody really warns you about it. Not the peaceful kind, not the relaxing kind people talk about in commercials. I mean the deeper quiet, the kind that slowly settles into the corners of your home, your mornings, your evenings, and eventually, your heart. When people talk about retirement, they usually talk about freedom. Freedom from stress, freedom from schedules, freedom from work. But very few people talk about what happens after the celebrations end, after the cards stop arriving, after the phone rings less often, after life becomes still. And if I'm being honest with you, that quiet frightened me more than I expected. Because for most of my life, I was surrounded by noise, co-workers, family schedules, appointments, responsibilities, people needing things from me. There was always movement, always urgency, always a reason to wake up quickly. Then one day, everything became quiet. And at first, I thought that was what I wanted. Until I realized silence can sometimes make us face parts of ourselves we've been too busy to hear. Part 1. The first few months of retirement. When I first retired, life almost felt exciting. People told me, "You deserve this. Enjoy every moment. You finally get to relax." And honestly, for a little while, I did. I slept later than usual. I made slow breakfasts. I sat outside with coffee while the neighborhood woke up around me. At first, it felt peaceful. But slowly, something began changing. The mornings became too quiet. The afternoons became too long. And evenings. Those were the hardest, especially around dinner time. Because for decades, dinner had always meant transition. People coming home, stories being shared, phones ringing, plans for tomorrow. But retirement changed the rhythm of the house. Sometimes I'd look around and realize hours had passed without hearing another voice. And the strange thing is, you can feel lonely even in a beautiful, peaceful home. That surprised me. I used to think loneliness only belonged to people who were isolated, but retirement taught me something different. Loneliness can happen quietly, even surrounded by comfort. Part 2. The sound of being needed. I don't think most retirees miss work itself. I think we miss feeling needed. There's a difference. Most of us spent decades waking up because someone depended on us. Employees, customers, students, patients, co-workers, children, schedules. For years, our presence mattered somewhere every single day. Then retirement arrives, and suddenly, nobody is waiting for you in the same way anymore. That emotional shift is enormous, and yet almost nobody talks about it honestly. I remember one morning standing in my kitchen, looking at the clock. It was only 9:12 a.m., and somehow the day already felt endless. That moment stayed with me, because it wasn't boredom exactly, it was disorientation, like I had lost the structure that once held my identity together. And maybe you felt that too. Maybe you've had mornings where you wondered, what exactly am I supposed to do with myself now? Not because you lack hobbies, not because your life is bad, but because human beings need meaning more than they need comfort. And retirement quietly removes many of the things that once gave us that meaning automatically. Part 3. The quiet inside the house. One of the strangest parts of retirement is how differently a home can feel. The same rooms, the same furniture, the same kitchen table, but somehow, everything feels quieter. I started noticing tiny sounds I never paid attention to before. The refrigerator humming, the clock ticking, floorboards creaking, wind brushing against windows. At first, those sounds made the house feel empty, almost too still. And in that stillness, memories become louder. You remember old routines, busy mornings, people who used to sit at the table, children running through hallways. Even arguments somehow become precious in hindsight, because noise meant life was moving. Retirement slows everything down enough for us to realize how quickly time actually passed. And that realization can feel emotional in ways people don't expect. I think that's why some retirees keep the television on all day. Not because they're truly watching it, but because silence can sometimes feel overwhelming, especially when we're still adjusting to who we are becoming now. Part 4. The morning I stopped fighting the silence for a long time. I tried escaping the quiet. I filled my days with distractions, scrolling endlessly, watching television, keeping busy for the sake of feeling busy. But eventually, I became tired of running from stillness. And one morning, something shifted. It was early summer. The neighborhood was calm. Sunlight was coming through the trees in that soft, golden way it does right after sunrise. And instead of turning something on for noise, I sat outside quietly. No phone, no television, no distractions, just silence. At first, it felt uncomfortable, but then slowly, I noticed something surprising. The quiet itself wasn't hurting me. What hurt was the fear I attached to it. Because silence forced me to slow down enough to notice my own emotions, my regrets, my exhaustion, my longing, but it also allowed me to notice things I had ignored for years. Birds singing, the breeze moving leaves, the smell of coffee in cool morning air, the feeling of simply existing without rushing somewhere. And for the first time, the silence no longer felt empty. It felt honest. Part 5. Retirement changes your relationship with time. When we're younger, life feels fast. There's always another goal, another responsibility, another deadline. But retirement changes our relationship with time completely. Suddenly, days feel slower, weeks blur together differently, and many people struggle because they mistake slower living for meaningless living. But they are not the same thing. Slower life can actually reveal meaning more clearly. You begin noticing moments you used to overlook. A peaceful breakfast, a conversation with a neighbor, an evening walk, the warmth of sunlight in your living room. Small, ordinary things become emotionally significant again. And maybe that's one of retirement's hidden gifts. Not productivity, not achievement, presence. Real presence. The kind many people spend their entire working lives too distracted to experience. Part 6. Why this quiet matters. I think retirement eventually teaches us something uncomfortable, but beautiful. For most of our lives, we were taught to measure our value through activity, through accomplishment, through busyness. But quiet life asks a different question. Who are you when there's nothing left to prove? That question can feel terrifying at first, but it can also become freeing, because maybe your worth was never tied to productivity in the first place. Maybe being present, being kind, being emotionally available, being alive in small, ordinary moments was always enough. I wish someone had told me that sooner. Part 7. The quiet became peaceful these days. My mornings are still quiet, but they feel different now. I wake slowly. I make coffee carefully. Sometimes I sit outside before the neighborhood fully wakes up. And instead of fearing the silence, I listen to it. Because I've realized something important. The quiet after retirement is not always emptiness. Sometimes it's space. Space to heal. Space to remember yourself. Space to finally live at a human pace again. And honestly, maybe that's something this world desperately needs more of. So if retirement has felt quieter than you expected, if your home sometimes feels too still, if the silence has felt heavier than anyone prepared you for, please know this. You are not broken. You are adjusting to a completely new rhythm of life. And maybe, little by little, the quiet will stop feeling lonely and start feeling like peace. Thank you for spending this quiet moment with me. This is Notes from Retirement with Clara, and I'll see you again soon.